What's up, guys? So today's video is 10 things that every beginner digital nomad should know. Basically, pieces of advice. And if you don't know me, if you're new to the channel, my name is Zenon, and I'm a 27-year-old Canadian digital nomad. I've been a digital nomad for just under 3 years now. I've been to about 14 different countries during that time. And so these are 10 things that basically I wished I knew when I started out as a digital nomad. And I've just kind of discovered them along the way. So these aren't like practical advice. We're not going to be going over like packing lists or anything boring like that. These are more so just like mindset things that you should probably know or just put on your radar if you're thinking about becoming a digital nomad or if you already are one and you're just looking for to have a better experience during that time. So happy to share them with you guys here. So let's just get into it. Sorry, voice is a little raspy today. Number one is starting small. So if it's your first time being a digital nomad, you don't have to go across the world. Let's say you're from Canada or you're from the United States. I think that's probably the two major countries, although there's a lot of people from Europe or wherever else. But basically, you don't have to start off going across the country. It might be better for you to just go with something that's a little bit closer to your comfort zone or maybe slightly beyond it and just start like that. So if you're from North America, maybe go down to Mexico, maybe go to somewhere more on the beaten path. You know what I mean? You don't want to be bushwhacking your way to your co-working space. Maybe you just go for something that's a little bit closer to normal. So that could be Guatemala, it could be the coast of Mexico, maybe you go to Playa del Carmen, maybe you go to Mexico City. Um, you don't have to kind of bite off more than you can chew, and doing so might actually give you like a very overwhelming experience just for starting off. And overall, I think that it can easily be more digestible at first if you're just going with something that's a little bit closer to your comfort zone. You still want to push yourself, but you don't want to push yourself too much. And some places are very digital nomad friendly. You can look at my other videos. I'm going to have some content on that for sure. But other places are a little bit harder to be a digital nomad in. So, for example, I don't recommend going to like the capital of Nicaragua. I think it's Managua. Those places can be pretty dangerous or difficult to be a digital nomad in. Whereas cities like Mexico City, Medellin, those can be a little bit more welcoming to digital nomads and probably closer to where you've been living and a little bit closer to your comfort zone. So don't start off super big. Start small and know that that's okay. Number two, don't be afraid to go alone. A lot of the time when you're trying to make a big life change like that, you might be coming from a small town or maybe a small group of friends or whatever. Not everybody wants to go do what you want to do, and that's okay. If you're coming from, I come from Canada. It's a small to medium city called Winnipeg. It's about 1 million people. When I wanted to leave to be a digital nomad, nobody wanted to go with me. And if I was waiting for somebody to want to go with me, I would have never left. That's just how it is. A lot of the time you want to go do something and you can't find somebody who wants to go there with you. But guess what? When you get there, there's already going to be people who wanted to do it too. And they came alone because nobody wanted to go with them. So when you go to whatever city it might be for you, Thailand or Vietnam or Medellin in Colombia, Buenos Aires, when you go there, when you arrive, you're going to meet hundreds or dozens of whatever people that already made moves in their lives to get there. They wanted to be there, so they set everything up. They bought a plane ticket, they packed up, and they left because they wanted to be there. And so you're going to find people who actually wanted to be there rather than bringing along your friends or whoever else, your family members, your spouse, and they don't actually want to be there at all. So don't worry about it if you can't find other people who want to go with you. You'll meet them there, and that's okay to go alone. Number three is to stay in a place for a while. This is especially true if you're just starting out. You might want to hop around a little bit. Let's say you just became, a travel bug, or you just got the travel bug, and finally you can start to work on online and travel around. And you're thinking, wow, okay, I'm gonna go to 10 countries in the next 10 weeks, or I'm gonna go city hopping. I'll spend 2 days here, 2 days there. That's not really how it is when you're a digital nomad. When you're a digital nomad, you have other responsibilities like work and stuff like that. And so if you're there in a city for a week, you might only have evenings and a weekend. And so when you condense all the time, that might be 25 hours in the week or whatever, 30 hours in a week of you being out and like actually engaging with the local culture. So that's not going to be very much time if you actually want to get to know a city or a culture or a country and understand what it's all about. So I'm not saying you have to stay there for months, but personally, the more that I've stayed in a place, the longer I've actually enjoyed it, the more I've enjoyed it. And the more friends I've made, the more I can tell you about that city, and the more of an affinity and a connection I've built up with that city. So The places I've stayed in are like Colombia for 7 months, Peru for 4.5 months, mostly in Lima. I stayed in Thailand for about 6 months, five in Bangkok, one in Chiang Mai. And those to this day are the cities that I have the biggest connection to. And when I look back and when I think of where I want to go on the road, there's 195 countries in the UN, maybe more depending on how you count them. But those are kind of the cities I still gravitate to because I know them. I have friends who are there. I have my favorite spots that are there. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing when you're starting out as a digital nomad that you can actually have other places that kind of feel like home. But if you're just hopping around all the time, maybe 1 week here, 1 week there, 1 week there, you're going to burn out pretty quickly. And then when you look back at that time, you're probably going to realize you didn't really make any friends from those different spots. And honestly, you probably can't tell people much about those spots at all. So it's a different kind of format of travel when you're a digital nomad. You're not really like a backpacker hopping around all the time. The goal is not to see so many places all the time. It's more so to live in those countries and understand a little bit about what makes them tick, and stay in and kind of immerse yourself in it a little bit before moving on to the next one, rather than just checking them off the list. So don't be afraid to stay in a spot for several months, half a year, even a year if you want to, because it's up to you at the end of the day. Number four is don't live alone at first. And I'm gonna definitely lose some of the introverts on this one. I bet a lot of people want to live alone, or maybe you just moved to like a developing country from a big city or whatever else. You move out of your parents' house and you want to enjoy all the freedom. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't live alone forever, and if you prefer to live alone, you can. But my advice is that if you're just starting out as a digital nomad and you're able to live with other people in like a co-living situation, or maybe you're in Bali and you share a villa with other people, or maybe you even stay in a homestay. I've heard of people doing that. I haven't done it myself, but this will basically help you meet people and kind of connect with the culture a little bit more. So imagine you just show up in a new city and you don't know anybody and you're living alone. How are you going to make friends? You're going to have to be really active in making friends and going out and meeting people. So maybe you go out once, twice, 3 times a week, 4 times if you're really social. But probably you won't see the same people every one of those nights. And it's just going to take a long time for you to actually like see people enough times on a weekly basis that you actually get to know them, and like you're asking for each other's information, and then you're going out to like hang out. Like it might take weeks or even months to make friends outside of your home. But if you just live with people in the beginning, maybe you live with other digital nomads. There's a lot of co-living spaces depending on where you're going. Or maybe you choose to go the local route and you live with some local people. I've done both. But the end result is that you actually meet people and network a lot quicker, just because you live with somebody every day. So they'll know who you are. They'll be introducing you to their friends. They'll kind of vouch for you, which is a lot easier to meet people in that circumstance rather than you just being some random person off the street that they met one time, and why would they introduce you to their friends. So if you're looking to make friends or kind of have more of a community experience in these places, not everybody is, but if that's what you're looking for, definitely recommend trying to find somewhere where you can just get a room at first. And yeah, you sacrifice a little bit of privacy. Maybe it's not as much fun because you can't walk around naked or whatever freaky stuff you're gonna do. But overall, you'll meet more people like this, and you might have a better experience. And I've done it in several situations, and I always found that it's a little bit better for me. Number four, or no, sorry, number five is to be more social than you usually are. So imagine, you're in your regular city right now, you're in your hometown, like a lot of people already, you don't really go out too much. Maybe it's expensive, like a lot of places in, North America or even Europe are pretty expensive to go out and get drinks, or there's not that much like events going on or something like that. You probably already have your little family and your friend group and everything like that. So you're not getting out of your comfort zone social wise very often. But when you're showing up in a new city, you need to make friends. You need to meet people to make this more of an enjoyable experience, because at the end of the day, like the people are one of the most important things of travel. It's kind of like food, it's people, it's location, it's culture, but people are such a huge part of that, and it can be make or break in terms of you having an awesome experience or just kind of a shitty one. Either way, meeting people is going to be super important. And the way to meet more people is to basically be more social when you get there. So, as a digital nomad, you're leaving behind a lot of those responsibilities when you get there. You don't have to go mow the lawn. You don't have to go pick up, your nephew from band practice on Thursday evenings. You don't have to be stuck in an office all the time. You're working remotely. That's what it means to be a digital nomad. So you want to take some of that time and make sure that you're actually going out and meeting people. And the nice part is a lot of cities actually have a ton of events where it's easy to do so. So some people have, I've been in Colombia especially, there was a lot of language exchanges, and that's how I learned Spanish. I would go to these places, it'd be free, and then you just show up and practice Spanish, and you get to know other people, other digital nomads, other locals. I've done the same thing in Mexico, I've done the same thing in Peru. A very good way of meeting people. Other than that, there's, it depends on where you are, but there's meetup.com events, a lot of those in Bangkok. If you go out and, honestly, if you're in the Philippines in general, it's super easy to meet people. They're all super friendly and they speak English, so that's a pretty good way to go about it. But you might want to go to the bars, you might want to go to board game meetups. Chances are there's something that you're into. Maybe it's like rock climbing meetups. I don't know. But whatever your hobbies are, allow those to your hobbies and your interests, allow those to pull you in the direction of meeting more people and just get out there and socialize and probably front load it. So it's a little bit better to be more social in the beginning than more social at the end. Because if you're more social in the beginning of your trip, you'll meet a lot of people that you can hang out with for the duration of your trip, versus if you're kind of burnt out in the beginning and then you decide to socialize at the end, you're not really going to meet many people and you're going to have that kind of looming over your head knowing that you're leaving in 3 weeks or a month. And honestly, in my experience, it kind of like ruins the vibe a little bit. So when you know that you have another trip booked or you're leaving in a couple weeks or whatever, it's very easy to mentally check out and just say, oh, I don't need to meet new people, or I'm not going to get to be hanging out with them for very long anyway. So definitely front load the social energy that you have for your trip and try to make a lot of friends in those beginning weeks. Those are very crucial. Number 6 is to have an idea of how you're going to make money before you get there. And I don't know if this one is obvious. To some people it is, some people it isn't. The other thing I'm going to say is, don't be married to it. There are going to be opportunities that come up along the way. But ideally, you want to have like some idea, some skill that you can kind of use before you get there. Ideally, you just have like a remote job or a remote source of income that you can just carry over. That's ideal. But if that's not true, then you should at least have like an area that you're going to work on. Let's say you want to try writing or content writing, or you want to do video editing, and maybe you don't have clients, but that's your plan to do video editing. Either way, it's best if you have some sort of area that you want to focus on, because then you can kind of look for those opportunities and attract those opportunities to you, versus if you're just like, I don't know, figure it out when I get there, and then you get there and you're like, you're kind of paralyzed by all the decisions and all the options when you get there. And it can be a lot because you're going to be traveling, you're going to be meeting new people, all this interesting stuff. So it's kind of nice if you already have that ironed out about how you're going to make money and sustain yourself. Otherwise, it can be a little bit, stressful. Number 7 is kind of tied up with the last one, but it's to have some savings. So I don't think anybody's dumb enough to be traveling without any money in the bank, but I have seen it done before. But either way, you just want to make sure you have some savings and that this isn't money that you need to draw on. You know what I mean? It's not your budget for this month. It's just some money that you have lying in the bank, because you don't want to have to call up on your mommy and daddy to come rescue you because you spent your last $1,000 on a snorkeling trip or whatever. You want to have some money in the bank that know that if things go bad, if whatever happens, if your income stream doesn't work out, you're able to go home, you're able to buy a ticket, you're able to figure it out, you got some options. So I would say minimum for myself, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it without like 3,000 or 4,000 in the bank, because I know that that's enough for me to buy a ticket home and to like figure it all out. But your zone of comfort might be lower or higher than mine, but that's just me personally and my expenditures. And also keep your expenses low while you're gone. If you don't have to pay for your car or your apartment while you're gone, that's probably best, because some people might want to keep that around, but personally, I don't want to be bled dry by all my expenses back at home while I'm taking on new expenses on the road. Number 8, guys, is to travel light. So personally, when I'm traveling, I have like when I'm traveling before, I have a 31-liter backpack and a duffel bag that's about the same size. Now I just upgraded to a 40-liter, so basically just a regular size backpack, maybe a little bit bigger than a regular size one, but it's not one of those giant travel ones. It's just more of a regular size backpack and a small duffel bag about this wide and this tall. That's all I bring. I don't bring a checked luggage like a big ass suitcase or anything like that. That's me personally. Maybe you want a suitcase, that's up to you. I like being able to carry all my stuff with me. Some people just go with one big backpack and that's it. Other people, they want to leave with like 2 suitcases and a backpack. It's up to you. But at the end of the day, I find that it's easier for me to travel light and just more enjoyable. I don't have to like drag everything around. Moving around is not this huge process or anything like that. So yeah, I'll leave that one up to you guys. But for me, traveling light works better. And also the number two part of this number 8 here is to basically make your primary form of souvenir photos and videos. Don't be afraid to just take as many photos and videos as you want. I know it can be kind of obnoxious to be that person who's always pulling out their phone and like or their camera and snapping a million pics or taking pictures of their food. But fuck it, you guys are on, you're traveling. Be that tourist or whatever. It's okay. You don't want to pick up souvenirs at every place you go because your bags are gonna get super heavy. So souvenirs and like your souvenir is primarily going to be videos and photos from each place you go to. Because if you bring in, big souvenirs like statues and stuff like that, your bags are going to get really heavy really quickly, and it's not that enjoyable for me. So, travel light. Number 9 is to stay flexible. So, for me, when I'm traveling, I like to book a one-way ticket going to a place, and then a lot of the time you have to book an exit ticket when you're going to the border. They'll ask like, when are you leaving? And they want to see a ticket showing that you're actually planning to leave the country at some point before your visa ends. There is a website called onwardticket.com where you can buy a ticket that is a real ticket, but it expires in 48 hours or longer if you want to pay a little bit more. But you can actually show this ticket to the airport people, the check-in people, and it'll be a real ticket. There's a real registration number or whatever, reservation number. And so that's actually a way of getting around that. So basically what this allows you to do is, let's say you go to Mexico or Colombia or Thailand or whatever, and you get 30 days. Let's say it's 30 days. So you get a ticket that says you're going to leave in 29 days, and then you show that to them, and they say, okay, here's a real ticket. This person's leaving in 29 days. Here's your stamp for 30 days. Boom. And then that ticket expires. And then you can choose if you want to renew your visa, because a lot of the places that you're going to allow you to renew your visa. Mostly it's like double the amount of time. So if you go to Thailand, you get 30 days, you can renew it for another 30. Or if you go to Mexico, it might be 6 months, and then you can renew it for another 6 months. But basically, this means you don't have this giant like ticket that's non-refundable or something like that looming over your head, and you know that you have to leave at a certain amount of time. Maybe you want to leave earlier. Maybe you want to leave later. Maybe you don't want to fly on the original flight that you had booked. Let's say I'm coming from Canada. Maybe I go to Mexico. Maybe I don't want to fly back from Mexico to Canada. Maybe I meet some people who are going to Guatemala and I want to go with them. Or maybe I want to go do whatever else it is. But basically, you want to stay flexible because you never know what kind of adventures you're going to get invited to on the way. You never know if you're going to find somewhere else that you want to go deeper into the country, or if you want to leave earlier, or maybe you meet some friends who are going on a cool road trip or a backpacking route in some other neighboring country. But the more flexible you are, the better. And this also has to do with your accommodations. So you don't want to kind of book all your things in advance. You want to stay flexible. So what I would do is, if I'm going to a place, let's say I'm going to Mexico City for a couple of months, I would book like 1 month to start off with, because I want to see how it is when I get there. I want to see how I like my Airbnb or my accommodations and make sure I like it. I don't want to book 3 months in a place and then get there and find out the internet sucks, or that there's no cell signal, or that it's super dangerous or anything like that. So the more flexible you are, the better you're off. And you're going to lose some opportunities, like maybe things are a little bit more expensive, or maybe you're booking a ticket last minute, so that ends up being more expensive or stuff like that. Or maybe you can't get the same Airbnb for the second month. But that's okay, because booking in short-term increments is going to allow you a lot more flexibility, and it's just going to be more enjoyable for those other opportunities that come up. And overall, that's my advice. Up to you guys, but that's how I would do it personally. I'll leave a link to that service below. I'm not affiliated. It's just a cool service that I use all the time. The last one is to remember that it's your choice. So if you want to stay out and be a digital nomad and keep going, you might get pressure from your family or friends to come home, but that's up to you. If you want to keep going, then keep going. Or if you make a lot of friends on the road and you want to go home, but you feel like you're letting people down by moving back home and stopping being a digital nomad, again, that's your choice. There's no real pressure either way. It's all just kind of like pressure in your mind or pressure from other people. But at the end of the day, it's a personal freedom, and it's really your choice about how you want to be. Maybe you decide this lifestyle is not for you, or maybe it is for you and you don't want to do anything else. Either way, I think that you should just do what's best for you, and kind of embrace that. Don't be afraid of letting people down, because at the end of the day, like, you're the most important person to yourself, and you might only be a small part of their lives, but you're like a big part of your own life. You know what I mean? So you have to be happy with who you are more than what they think of you. So that's my 10th piece of advice. And I just have one bonus for you guys. And it is to remember that this is a journey of self discovery. And you don't have to stay the same person as when you left. In fact, you shouldn't. And I don't think you're able to stay the same person. You're going to change. You're going to grow. You're going to become somebody else. And that's okay. Embrace it. Reinvent yourself. Maybe you have different hobbies at the end of it. Maybe you decide you like different things, different goals, different dreams than when you left. And that's perfectly fine. That's great. I want you guys to lose yourself in your travels, and then I want you guys to find yourself as you go. It's a kind of a cycle of losing yourself and rediscovering who you want to be. So definitely enjoy that. And that's all I have for you guys today. Personally, I'm going to Brazil in a couple of weeks. Peru in a couple of weeks, and then Brazil afterwards. So maybe I'll see you guys on the road. Follow me on Instagram if you'd like. I'll leave the link down below. And thanks for subscribing. If you haven't already, hit the button. I'll see you guys in the next video.